All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to our 2021 annual meeting. My name is Emily Norton, and I'm the Executive Director of the Charles River Watershed Association. We are so excited to have nearly 200 RSVPs, including many old friends and quite a few who are here for the first time, at least if they show up, at least from the RSVP list. In fact, we would love if you would put your name and city or town into the chat so that we can all see where everyone is logging in from the watershed and beyond. We have what we think is a really great program tonight, and knowing how sick of Zoom we all are, we want to keep it moving so that we are over in an hour, but we will have some breakout sessions after that for those who would like to stick around and discuss a few topics in more detail. So our agenda tonight is as follows. First, we're going to have our business meeting where members will vote on some important items. Then our treasurer, Sarah Slaughter, will go over our 2020 financial report. And then we'll hold our award ceremony where we will be honoring some unsung heroes of the Charles. And then we will move into our CRWA broadcast, the Good News broadcast with correspondents reporting on CRWA's work. And that will close out our official program, though, as I said, for those who want to stick around, we will also have breakout sessions for a happy half hour with CRWA staff. And then we will fully end at 8 p.m. And with that, I will turn it over to our Director of Development, Audrey Wallace.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Before we jump into our business meeting, I'd love to go over a few helpful hints and instructions that will make it easier for us to see who is voting, as well as give you the opportunity to share any input you may have during our business meeting. On this slide, you will see a screenshot of what your computer screen may look like. You will see a video panel that includes CRWA staff and annual meeting attendees, like right here. You can see my little mouse blue dot circling it. So you can see on this slide, you'll see a screenshot and one of them will be you. So you'll double check to see how your name is displayed in the lower left-hand corner. As you can see, Jenny's name here is Jenny's iPad. If your name is something similar, your child's name, your partner's name, or your secret alias, we would appreciate it if you would change your display name to your first and last name. So how do we do this? You will hover here, you'll see step 1 and 2. You will hover over your video box and you will see 3 little dots here in blue. You'll click on those 3 dots and there will be a drop down menu. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you will see rename, like here in step 2. By clicking rename, you'll have the opportunity to change your display name to your first and last name to help us count votes accordingly. It will also help us see who is joining us here tonight. Secondly, we want to give you the opportunity to share any input you may have during our business meeting portion of tonight's event. If you would like to say anything, we are going to ask you to please virtually raise your hand. In order to raise your hand, you will take your mouse and hover over the toolbar on the bottom of your Zoom screen, like you can see right here. You will see an icon that says reactions. If you don't see reactions, don't worry. Try making your Zoom screen a little bit wider or clicking the 3 dots on the right of your toolbar. When you click on the reactions icon, you will see a variety of fun reactions, as you can see right here, the bottom one being raise hand. If you would like to say anything, please click on the raise hand icon and we will call on you. Lastly, if you're having any technical issues, please click on the chat box icon, as you can see in your little toolbar. And we will try to get to you as fast as possible. And with that, I am excited to launch into our program and welcome Linda McLean, CRWA's board president, to say a few words. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank all of you for joining us this evening. Welcome. My name is Linda McLean, and I am president of the board. I want to thank you all for your support this past year. We could not possibly do our work without it. It has been a difficult year, as you all know, especially for our staff who have had to work remotely. But under the able leadership of Emily Norton, our executive director, not only has our work continued, but also great strides have been made on some of our projects. So a big thank you to Emily and the staff. You will be hearing more about this work later on during the broadcast portion of the program. Not to be outdone by the staff, the board has also worked very hard this year. I am excited to tell you we have recently completed a strategic plan, which will set us up for the next 3 to 5 years. We are in the process of working with the staff to come up with detailed action steps to reach our goals, and we will share these with all of you when completed. But be assured, we will not only continue, but also expand our core projects to allow us to keep the Charles River and its watershed clean. And we plan to be even more active, helping the cities and towns along the river and in its watershed develop nature-based solutions to restore the natural hydrology to protect against the water damage and extremes that come with climate change. Of course, we will strive to perform our work with a heightened awareness of our equity lens. So we are very excited for this next phase of our work and grateful to have you with us on this journey. We could not do it without you. On behalf of the board, thank you all very much. Now to continue with our business section, before turning it over to Sarah Slaughter, our treasurer, who will go over the financials, we have some items to vote on. To conduct this process, I would like to turn it over to Larry Yu, our clerk. Larry.
Cheers, thank you, Linda, and good evening, everyone. So during the business meeting portion of tonight's annual meeting, we'll be voting on 4 items. First is amendments to the CRWA's Articles of Organization. Second is amendments to our bylaws. Third is candidates for election to our board of directors. And fourth is candidates for election for CRWA's officers. I'm going to walk you through those one at a time and walk you through the voting process. Should be fairly straightforward. So let's start with the Articles of Organization. So first, as background, the Articles of Organization, as you can see here, are essentially the framework for the organization, and they include our name, our purpose, and statements about the kinds of activities we can and cannot do as a charitable organization. The articles are filed with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and with the IRS. The CRWA's Articles of Organization were last updated in 1967, believe it or not, just a year after our articles were first filed in 1966. Our work, as you can imagine, has evolved quite a bit in the last 50 plus years, building upon prior accomplishments and also to respond to our new understanding of threats like climate change. So the amendments being proposed tonight would update the articles to reflect those changes, as well as include current language required by the IRS actually to protect our tax exempt status. So they're actually kind of important here. The way this works under state law, changes to our articles require a 2/3 vote of all eligible members. That's not just those present this evening, but all eligible members. So for the CRWA, members eligible to vote on these changes are Class B members. So that's the board of directors, the board of advisors, and our volunteer monthly water quality monitors. All Class B members received the proposed amendments in advance of tonight's meeting, and they've also been posted on our annual meeting webpage. So in order to reach the required 2/3 threshold, again, of all Class B members, not just those here tonight, we solicited proxy votes in advance of the meeting, and we received 84 proxy votes. Thank you all for voting, by the way, all of which were in favor of the changes. I really appreciate that everyone engaged in this process prior to tonight. We're going to vote in a moment. Just to explain, though, if you already did vote by proxy, there's no need to vote again tonight. We have your vote recorded. If you do end up voting twice, that's okay. Your vote in person tonight will be counted, and we will discard your proxy vote. And we will be cross-checking the list of proxy votes with the votes received tonight in person to make sure no votes were double counted. So rest assured there. So with all that said, I move to approve the proposed amendments to the Articles of Organization as noticed in the annual meeting invitation that was sent on February 18th. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ed Englander. A very charged up second. Thank you. So with that, let's go ahead and bring up the vote on screen. Remember, please only vote if you are a Class B member. That's a member of the Board of Directors or Board of Advisors or a volunteer monthly water quality monitor. If you already voted by proxy, we have your vote. And if you don't need to vote tonight or are not voting, there's no need to do anything. The poll will just go away. So you don't have to click yes, no, submit or anything. It'll just go away. All that said, I'm gonna pause here for, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds and see how we do. Wonderful. We will be sharing all the results at the end of tonight's business meeting. So hopefully we'll be able to share some good news then. Next up are amendments to the CRWA's bylaws. Our bylaws are the rules and procedures for internal governance of the organization. We are only proposing a few substantive changes to the bylaws. One is we're updating our statement of purpose to be consistent with the revised purpose statement in the Articles of Organization, as we just covered. And second is really changing officers' terms from 2 years from 1 year. There are a couple other minor proposed changes to either improve clarity, eliminate some conflicting provisions in the bylaws, or correct some typos. Again, all Class B members received the proposed amendments in advance of tonight's meeting, and they've also been posted on our annual meeting webpage. In this case, changes to our bylaws require a 2/3 vote of all Class B members voting. That's 2/3 of the Class B members who are on the call tonight. It's a little bit different than the first vote we just had. So no proxy votes here. All Class B members on this call, please participate in the vote live. With all that said, I move to approve the proposed amendments to the bylaws as noticed in the annual meeting invitation sent on February 18th.
Second.
I have another second from Ed Englander. Thank you, Ed. So here we go again. Please vote only if you're a Class B member, Board of Directors, Board of Advisors, or volunteer monthly water quality monitor. If you're not voting, you don't have to do anything. The poll will disappear in 15 seconds or so. Oh, I have to vote too. That was easy. Super. So let's move on to the election of directors. That's item number 3. We're halfway done and we're actually past the more complicated part. So this should be a smooth ride here. Now we'll turn to candidates for election to our board of directors. We have 3 candidates for re-election as directors: Peter Fernandez, Pat King, and Larry Yu. We also have 2 new candidates for election as directors: Tony Hicks and Aditya Parakath. They will be voted on as a slate of candidates. So I will entertain a motion to elect Peter Fernandez, Pat King, and Larry Yu for re-election, and Tony Hicks and Aditya Parakath for election as directors of the CRWA.
So moved.
Moved from Ed Englander. I will second that. Thank you all. So all members this time are eligible to participate in the vote. So if you're a current member, please vote now. If you're not voting, again, no need to do anything.
I bet we're going to have a lot more members next year because those who are missing out.
This is an entertaining section, isn't it?
If you want to be able to vote next year, join CRWA now.
Wonderful. So lastly, is the election of officers. So finally, and last but not least. So the following candidates have been nominated: Linda McLean for re-election as president, Lance Campbell for election as vice president, Larry Yu for election as clerk, and Sarah Slaughter for re-election as treasurer. They too will be voted on as a slate of candidates. So I will entertain a motion to elect Linda McLean as president, Lance Campbell as Vice President, Larry Yu for Clerk, and Sarah Slaughter for Treasurer.
I enthusiastically move that the slate be elected as our officers.
Amazing. Thank you, Ed. I will second that.
I'll have what Ed's they're serving.
So again, all members are eligible to vote. If you're a current member, please vote now. If you're not voting, no need to do anything. The poll will disappear. All right. So thank you all for participating in these really important votes. I'll come back to you with some results in a moment, but for now, I'm going to hand it over to CRWA Treasurer Sarah Slaughter for a brief financial update.
It's wonderful to see so many people here at the annual meeting. Welcome, everybody, and hopefully you've gotten a chance to get out on this gorgeous day and enjoy the Charles River. I'm going to present the financial summary for fiscal year 20. We have not yet had the completed audited report, but it will be posted on our website when it is completed. First of all, in terms of looking at the funding sources on the right-hand side, I'd like to point out that about over 90 or almost 90% of our funding actually comes from individuals and foundations. And we would like to thank everybody so incredibly much for all of your support. It's really phenomenal. As you can see, we have contributions that have been coming in, almost $500,000. We've got funding from the campaign on the left-hand side. And we've also got the various events and our various program activities, which are supported by different funding sources. So thank everybody so much for your wonderful support in the last year, as Linda was saying earlier. Next slide, please. On the expenses, it's always great to see that the revenue is greater than the financials. That's one of the things that, as a treasurer, makes my heart warm. As you can see, the majority of our expenses are in the program area, and then there's smaller proportions in fundraising, administration, and events. In terms of the program expenses, I know the rest of the meeting today will go into more detail on these various topics. You can see that about equal proportions were spent on education and outreach and on climate change adaptation and advocacy. We've got a strong program, as you know, in river science. Thank you all of our river monitors for all of your wonderful help, and a strong program in Blue Cities. So we're very pleased with the continued success, financial security and success for CRWA, despite a very tough year during the whole pandemic. So we really appreciate support from everybody. And thank you so much to the whole team at CRWA for doing a great job during such a difficult time. Thank you. And back to you, Larry, for the results of the voting.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. So the results are indeed in. Our articles of organization, the amendments, to the articles of organization passed unanimously with 96 votes in favor. That includes the proxy votes we received. The amendments to the bylaws passed unanimously with 22 votes in favor. The slate of directors was unanimously approved with 42 votes in favor. And lastly, the slate of officers was passed unanimously with 41 votes in favor. So congratulations to all there. And thank you all for participating in all of these important votes. That concludes the business portion for the annual meeting, and I'll turn it back over to Executive Director Emily Norton for the awards ceremony.
Thank you so much, Larry. And, nationally, we could learn something from our smooth election results here, our smooth election process. Just kidding. Okay, moving on to our awards ceremony. So every year at our annual meeting, we recognize individuals who have gone above and beyond in protecting the Charles River. And I have the privilege of presenting this year's Anne M. Blackburn Award. First presented in 1994, this is CRWA's premier award presented to an individual who has made significant sacrifices over a career that have resulted in singular improvements for the Charles River, its watershed, and our natural environment. The award is given in honor of Anne M. Blackburn, who worked tirelessly over her career to protect and restore the environment, not just at CRWA or for the Charles, but across decades and over the entire Eastern United States. Our recipient this year is former Somerville State Representative Denise Provo. Representative Provo retired from the state legislature in January 2021 after serving for 15 years. She was a champion of many issues, including civil rights, healthcare, criminal justice reform, and marriage equality. But our award tonight is about her leadership when it comes to the environment, and especially water, and her willingness to do the right thing, even when it was not to her own political benefit. Representative Provo was the key House sponsor of the bill that requires that the public be notified when there are sewage releases into Massachusetts rivers. As you all know, this bill finally passed in the last session, and another of our recipients tonight also played a key role in that. Notification is not our end goal, of course. Preventing sewage releases is our end goal. But once the public is aware of how often this happens, we firmly believe that it'll create the political will to make the financial investments necessary to stop them. Representative Provo is also the lead sponsor of the bill establishing the Mystic River Watershed Water Quality Commission, and she also sponsored bills to protect drinking water from fracking and to reduce particulate air pollution in environmental justice communities. And as I said, Representative Provo is brave. She was willing to buck the House Speaker, for example, when it came to issues of transparency and how the House is run. She was not given plum leadership posts, nor one of the nicer offices in the building because of her independence. But if all of our legislators prioritized good governance and transparency this way, voters would know more about what is going on and be better able to hold their legislators accountable. So thank you, Representative Provo, for your courage and leadership.
Well, thank you, Emily, and thanks to everyone who is here at this meeting tonight. I am so thrilled to be honored tonight by the Charles River Watershed Association across so many dimensions. And I'll tell you a little story to explain why this award means so much to me. So imagine it's 1966. I was in high school in Florida, and I was crazy about a song on the radio. A group called the Standells had a hit that had a lyric that I was soon singing that went, "I love that dirty water, oh Boston, you're my home." And I wanted Boston to be my home, though I wasn't happy that the water was dirty, because I'd grown up near another dirty river, the Androscoggin in Lewiston, Maine. And I really wanted everybody's hometown to have a river that was clean. But here's a secret I can tell you now that I'm not a state rep from Somerville. For a decade, I lived in Cambridgeport. From 71 to 81, I lived near the Charles River. And toward the end of that decade, the water was getting cleaner, and I used to take my kayak down to the put-in near the BU Bridge, and I would paddle up to the dam on the other side of Watertown, and I would paddle back and pick water lilies and bring them home and put them in my sink. And I was so happy to be in that usually clean enough water. And even the first 7 years I lived in Somerville, I lived in the watershed of the Charles River. And it was quite an adjustment when I moved over that big hill and landed in the Mystic River watershed. But that water was easily as dirty as the Charles River's water, if not dirtier. And eventually I found out why. Right after I was elected state representative from Somerville in February of 2006, some folks from the Mystic River Watershed Association took me on a tour of CSO outfalls in Alewife Brook and in the main branch of the Mystic, which was an eye-opener. And then shortly after that, I had a couple of students from Somerville High School job shadow me at the State House for a day. And one saw the map of the Mystic on the wall, the map of Somerville on the wall of my office, and pointed to the Mystic. And he told me he rowed for the Somerville High School crew team, but sometimes when they were out practicing in the river, he thought he saw human waste floating there. Was that even possible? And sadly, I told him it was indeed possible. So he looked right at me and said, "What are you going to do about it?" So, I had my work cut out. The first thing I did was file a bill modeled on the Charles River Water Quality Commission legislation, which did such great work. And I got the bill passed, but then Governor Baker was elected and his administration did not make a single appointment to the commission. So it never got to be up and running. And I knew I had to do something else. And the next bill was the CSO notification bill, which, as you say, has passed and will benefit every watershed in Massachusetts that has pollution from sewage outfalls. The Charles and the Mystic, both my watersheds, will benefit from this bill and others besides. So I am extremely grateful to be getting this recognition tonight. And I thank you all for your work on behalf of clean water in the Charles and elsewhere in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you so much for those wonderful words. And it's also wonderful to know how much more free time you have now, because we are always looking for more volunteers. So
Okay.
yeah, you're laughing, but there are people around here who can tell you you shouldn't be laughing. We will be coming after you.
I expect to be recruited.
Wonderful. Next, I would like to introduce Heather Miller, our General Counsel and Policy Director, to present the next award. Heather.
Thank you, Emily, and good evening, everyone. I will be presenting the Clean Charles Award, which goes to an individual who has made great strides in eliminating pollution from the Charles River through implementing law, policy, or structural improvements in the watershed. This year, I have the distinct honor of presenting the Clean Charles Award to Gabby Queenan. Gabby is currently pursuing her master's degree at Tufts in their Urban and Environmental Policy and Planning program. Until recently, Gabby was the policy director at Massachusetts Rivers Alliance, one of our key partners working to protect and restore the state's rivers. Gabby was instrumental in getting the Combined Sewer Overflow, or CSO, bill that we just talked about passed. This is the bill that requires public notification of sewage spills into waterways. And yes, as Rep. Provo just said, raw sewage does still spill into our waterways during heavy rains. I know it's gross, but let's get back to Gabby. Leading a coalition of watershed and environmental advocacy groups, including CRWA, Gabby worked with wastewater treatment plant operators, the Massachusetts Municipal Association, the MWRA, state agencies, public health advocates, and mayors and city councilors to build support for this bill. She conducted outreach, spoke with the media, met with legislators, and navigated the sometimes tricky system of state politics. Environmental legislation is notoriously difficult to pass in our state, so the passage of this bill was a huge victory, and we have Gabby to thank in large part for making it happen. During her time at Mass Rivers, Gabby was also successful in securing millions of dollars more in the state budget for our environmental agencies, which we know is absolutely critical. Gabby has accomplished all of this while also being incredibly kind, welcoming, collaborative, and just an all-around fantastic person to work with. I personally miss working with Gabby now that she's at Tufts, but I'm excited for the new skills and knowledge she's gaining and have no doubt she'll continue making a positive impact on our world. Please join me in thanking Gabby for her efforts to protect and improve the Charles and all rivers across Massachusetts. Congratulations, Gabby. And I will now hand it over to our aquatic scientist, Lisa Kumpf, to present the Ginger Lawrence Volunteer Award.
Thank you, Heather. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'll be presenting the Ginger Lawrence Volunteer Award, which is presented to an outstanding CRWA volunteer who has gone above and beyond the call of duty in donating their time and effort to assist with CRWA's work to protect, preserve, and enhance the Charles River and its watershed. This year, I'm very pleased to present this award to the Code for Boston Safe Water Group. Code for Boston is a Code for America brigade and grassroots organization where skilled volunteers donate their time and technical expertise to important causes. The Safe Water Group helped CRWA in 3 main areas over the past year: user research, data visualization for the CRWA website, and updating the automatic website for our flagging program. The user research team performed interviews with staff members and volunteers and created and launched a survey to better understand who our members were and what they were looking for from CRWA, allowing the other two teams to target their products. The data visualization team then created an ArcGIS dashboard that shows CRWA's E. coli bacteria data from 1995 to present. I'm happy to announce that the dashboard is now complete and you can explore it on our website now. The flagging team had the strenuous task of building a new automated website from the ground up. We look forward to debuting the website at the start of our flagging program in May. The team didn't stop there. They even went above and beyond, creating a Twitter bot that automatically tweets water quality updates on the Lower Charles during the season, which you can follow at CRWA Flagging. We are extremely grateful for all of this amazing work Code for Boston has brought to CRWA. It has really expanded our capacity and reach, and we hope that making our data more accessible to the public will spur more action toward a cleaner Charles River. Please join me in congratulating the Code for Boston Safe Water Group. And now I will turn it over to Julie Wood, our Deputy Director, to present our Special Recognition Award.
Thank you, Lisa, and good evening, everybody. It's my honor tonight to present our Special Recognition Award to Suzanne Carleo. Suzanne was CRWA's controller or accountant for 16 years, from 2004 until 2020. For close to 2 decades, Suzanne made sure we all got paid on time, made sure the lights and heat stayed on, prepared board financial reports and funder reports, facilitated healthcare enrollment, waded through general liability insurance applications, and essentially played a critical role in all the important and underappreciated tasks that keep any organization running. But Suzanne was so much more. Suzanne was really the heart of CRWA, and when we needed it, she could also be the muscle. Suzanne was always the first to pick up a cake to celebrate a staff member's birthday, accomplishment, or work anniversary. When she heard I was bringing my 2-year-old son to the holiday party, she dug out her son's old Thomas the Tank Engine train set and brought it to the party to keep him entertained. And there was a bug or a pest of any size in the office, the one we would all call was Suzanne. Suzanne is an extremely dedicated environmentalist in her personal life, and she loved the Charles so much, she even got her son involved in rowing, and Joey went on to compete very competitively at the college level. While it was sad to say goodbye to Suzanne last summer, we're very pleased that she's been able to go on to pursue her true passion of taking life-threatening adventures with her husband and son and achieving spectacular athletic accomplishments, like beating people half her age in marathons. From the time I began at CRWA back in 2007 until her departure in 2020, I was lucky enough to count Suzanne as a friend, and that is why it is my true pleasure tonight to honor her with this special recognition. Thank you, Suzanne. Now I'll turn it over to Iris Cito to present our Young Leaders Award.
Great, thank you, Julie. I will be presenting the Young Leaders Award. This is a special award given to honor individuals who have demonstrated meaningful environmental improvements at a young age and recognizes their environmental contributions towards a more sustainable future. CRWA is very pleased to honor Emma Koskovich with the Young Leaders Award this year for her work on a Natick Green Street project. Emma is currently a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania studying finance and real estate, and is also a proud Natick native. Through her community service class about water systems in urban settings, Emma was able to combine her passion for fiber arts with the ability to educate Natick residents about how they can positively influence the region's water by creating crochet installations. These crochet installations not only demonstrate Emma's creative capabilities to educate the public about stormwater runoff, watersheds, and green infrastructure, but also the vast intersectionality of environment with other aspects of life. It is young leaders like Emma who make climate adaptation tangible to all that help build our resilient communities. Thank you, Emma, and congratulations. I will now pass it on to Amy Walker, our Community Engagement Coordinator.
Thank you, Iris. It is my honor to present Milestone Service Awards to several of our volunteer monthly monitors. Charles River Watershed Association's Volunteer Monthly Monitors is one of the oldest and largest volunteer sampling programs in the country. Once a month, over 80 volunteers gather at sites along the Charles River to collect water samples, record river conditions, and measure depth and temperature. This program has provided a long-term water quality data set to CRWA, which has been the foundation of all of our work. This data set allows us to track the health of the river over several years, to identify pollution types and sources, and to continue to work to clean the Charles. This data truly supports nearly all the work at CRWA. Some of our volunteers have been with the program since its beginnings, when it was still called IM3, and today we want to honor our most dedicated volunteers. First, we have 2 volunteers celebrating 25 years of service, which is longer than I have been alive. Thank you to Damon Carter and Paul Whalen. Next, celebrating 10 years of service, a big thank you to Tammy Vigato. And lastly, celebrating 5 years of service, thank yous to James Bastian, Nick King, Bill Lawson, Lee Mabry, and Terry McKiernan. Again, thank you to all of our volunteers. We truly could not do it without you. And now for our program update, a CRWA exclusive, the Good Newscast.
Hey folks, did you hear that? CRWA is saying that there was good news in 2020. What? Seriously? Please, tell us more.
Just doing a little cleanup of the Charles River, because that's what we do at CRWA all year long. When we think back on 2020, I know we actually don't want to think back on 2020, but when it comes to our work, cleaning up the Charles, we actually have some really good news to share. So with that, we will kick off our good news broadcast, starting with our General Counsel and Policy Director, Heather Miller. Heather, take it away.
Thanks, Emily. Heather Miller here, covering good news around the I-90 project, which, thanks to the tireless work of our members and supporters, is in no short supply. As you might know, in 2019, the state released a plan to build a temporary road in the Charles River during construction of the project for 10 years. 10 years, of course, being famously synonymous with the concept of temporary. You know, like how the words decade and temporary are often interchangeable, or how the 10 Years' War is also known as the Temporary War. Wait, I'm getting something. Yes, well actually it seems that 10 years is anything but temporary, and building a road in the Charles for that length of time presents both countless avenues for damage to the ecosystem and a chance that it could end up being permanent. In response to this proposal, CRWA led an advocacy effort that inspired more than 400 of our members to write "No Road in the River" letters to MassDOT. They also attended MassDOT board meetings and held signs saying "No Road in the River." Thanks in large part to this work of CRWA and its members, in June 2020, Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Katie Theoharides detailed in a letter to MassDOT that, quote, "Any alternative that contains impacts on the Charles River, even temporary, is not only difficult to permit, but should be discounted in favor of alternatives with no temporary or permanent impact. My agencies would consider any intrusion into the river excessive, especially if there are alternatives without any intrusion." Furthermore, this past October, MassDOT Secretary Stephanie Pollock announced that the state would wait to decide on the preferred design for the I-90 project until after the next round of environmental review takes place, meaning that before moving forward with critical project decisions, MassDOT and the public will have a better understanding of each design's impacts on the Charles River, including whether certain approaches could be approved under state and federal environmental laws. We also expect to learn more about the project's vulnerability to climate change impacts like heavier rain and sea level rise, and we'll keep you updated on the environmental review process this spring and summer. To be sure, it hasn't been all sunshine and roses, and there's still a lot of hard work ahead to ensure that positive outcomes that we and all of our members and partners can be happy with. But if 2020 has taught us anything, it's the need to take a moment every now and then to appreciate the bright spots in an otherwise challenging time. It's also taught us that baking your own sourdough is highly overrated, but that's a different matter for a different podcast.
Not so long ago, early Massachusetts settlers would gather along a charming tributary of the Charles in Newton for a relaxing Sunday picnic. These picnics often featured cheese and cake, leading folks to lovingly name this body of water Cheese and Cake Brook. Over time, it was shortened to simply Cheesecake Brook. These days, you won't find any cheeses or cakes out here, but you will find plenty of algae, phosphorus, and bacteria from decades of pollution and neglect. That's one picnic that we at CRWA have no interest in continuing. So last year, with various stakeholders, stakeholders and the modern day descendants of those Sunday picnickers, we assessed the community's history, the current needs, and competing interests to conceptualize a new and improved Cheesecake Brook that restores the waterway to a more natural state, thereby reducing stormwater flooding and improving water quality and native habitats. Alongside an engineering firm, we developed a conceptual design for a section of the brook that includes bank restoration, restoring the stream sinuosity or the curviness, reduces stormwater flooding, and it uses green infrastructure to reduce pollution flowing into the brook, and much more. The community was supportive and informative, allowing us to learn more about vital community interests in this area, like schools, fields, and bike trails that need to be in the area that can be folded into these forthcoming designs. In the next year, we strive to attain more funding and continue to further engage stakeholders and residents so that we can determine the best way to build a Cheesecake Brook that any Newton resident, past or present, would be happy to spend a leisurely Sunday afternoon next to. And that's the good news from Newton.
Shh! Emily, keep it down. To paraphrase a rather loony duck, be very quiet. We're hunting invasives. For the less loony of us out there, that's invasives with a V, as in very, very important issue plaguing the Charles River. Come along and let's see if we can't find one. Invasive species are living organisms that alter and harm the ecosystems they inhabit. They are non-native to these habitats and they are primarily introduced by humans, but they can also take root due to climate change. Did you hear that? Sounds like an invading invasive doing invasive stuff. I think we're right on one's tail. Could be one of those slithering bittersweet vines that girdle deciduous forests, or maybe one of those clogging aquatics like Eurasian milfoil or fanwort or water chestnuts. Speak of the devil! There's one there! Sorry to any children who had to see that, but this is just one example of the many things Charles River Watershed Association is doing to address invasive species in the watershed. When we're not wrestling these buggers to the ground, we're addressing stormwater pollution, manually removing plants, and advocating for community and state level changes. We also partnered with DCR this past year to push forward the important work in the lower basin. Anyway, I'm off to the taxidermist. Gotta get this guy stuffed and mounted for our trophy room.
Julie Wood here on the banks of the Charles River. Look, I get it, Emily. I have little kids at home. I went into the pandemic with a lifetime supply of Clorox wipes. And just because I wouldn't share, now you punish me with the assignment of trying to find good news from the 2020 drought. Well, I'm a dedicated CRWA reporter, and I think I can do it. But first, all this talk of drought is making me thirsty. So, here's the good news. Massachusetts, on average, receives over 40 inches of rain every year. Even in a dry year, like last year, Boston received a little over 38 inches of rainfall. If we're wise about how we manage this, it should be enough water to last through the year. Unfortunately, due to past land use and development practices, even short-term dry periods can result in shocking sights like dry riverbeds or unending toxic algae blooms. We're not California with their sunny skies and sunny dispositions, and we're not Arizona with their desert heat and rocky landscapes. We're Massachusetts, and we love our dirty water, but we also love clean and flowing rivers. Even short-term droughts can have very long-term consequences, from drying out stream beds to causing damage from forest fires. Some good news is that local policymakers are beginning to be more proactive in addressing drought, and it's CRWA's job to push them in holistically thinking about the way we manage water. Droughts like this show us that climate change is happening now. The science says that climate change will bring the Northeast wetter winters and springs, but hotter and drier summers. We may not be able to avoid droughts in the future, but we can do better about the way we manage water. In our homes and businesses, we can conserve water. And in our communities, we can push for green infrastructure that captures water and puts it back into the ground. So when we want to come out and enjoy the Charles on a beautiful day like today, there's plenty of water for us to take a paddle or throw a rod in. So there's the good news. Cheers!
Hi, reporting from you live on top of the Boylston Street Bridge in the Emerald Necklace above the Muddy River. My name is Karen Marnie Brodek, and I'm very excited to join you today to talk about the importance of the work that CRWA does in collaboration with the Conservancy and other groups like ours that work to protect these rivers. Many of you may not know that the Muddy River is the defining element of the Emerald Necklace. It starts at Jamaica Pond and flows out to the Charles River. What we have learned through the great work of the CRWA over the last many years is that the Muddy River was the worst polluter to the Charles, especially in things like E. coli. Yuck! This year, there was another study done by CRWA in collaboration with the EPA, and we learned that the Muddy River is the worst polluter to the Charles with a D- rating. I've never gotten a D-. We can do better than that, Boston. We can do better than that for our Emerald Necklace and for our Muddy River. So now we know the Muddy needs help. We knew it before with our eyes. Now we have the test data, thanks to CRWA. We're looking forward to continue our collaboration and all the work that we do here. There are projects we're actively working on to improve the water quality of the Muddy, including shoreline restoration, the Army Corps of Engineers project you might even be able to see in the background. Additionally, there are ways that we can improve the overall quality of the Muddy through opportunities of daylighting that we're exploring at Charles Gate and just generally improving the shoreline habitat. It's important we do this work because we not only improve the environment for habitat, for plants and animals that surround the necklace and depend on the water, but it's also for us. So I really appreciate everybody here thinking about the river, supporting the Muddy River, the Emerald Necklace, and the Charles River. Thank you all for everything that you do.
I'm Aaron Dale, Program Coordinator at the Excel Conservation Corps. We're here at the Ellis Elementary School. And Excel and Charles River Watershed Association has been partnering together for the last 2 years to train our youth in green ambassadorship, green infrastructure, to make them green ambassadors in the future to their social circles. And so that's why we're here today. I want to show you some of the green infrastructure that we have on the grounds at the Ellis Elementary School. Directly behind me is what we call a bioretention cell. The purpose of the bioretention cell is to imitate or mimic a New England forest with typical wet conditions, right? And so on a rainy day, not like today, the water would come down and would flow into this bioretention cell, right? There would be all types of green grass and trees planted here that would then treat the water, feed from the water, grow from the water, and treat it before it's discharged out into our sewers. And that's the stormwater runoff that comes, that will come and flow through this pavement and into this bioretention cell. So now we've moved on to the squeak gum tree. This is an enhanced biofiltration system. What it does is it captures the stormwater runoff that comes from this playground, the parking lot, and this little ramp right here. And this right here is called permeable pavement. What it allows the water to do is infiltrate into the ground where they have engineered sand and soil that will treat and remove some of the pollution from the water before it's allowed to infiltrate or go into our sewers. If you see over here, there's a grate right here, a sewer, where there's a pipe under this tree and under this permeable pavement that catches any overflow that allows the discharge into the sewer, so this stuff doesn't get caught in this area. And that's what the green infrastructure is meant to do and is doing here at the Ellis Elementary School. Now back to you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our experts reporting from the field, and the audio wasn't quite what it could have been, so we will be sharing the link later so that folks can watch it again if you like. And a very special thanks to our volunteer, Anthony Miller, who helped us put this video together. And now I'm excited to share with you a special piece put together by our volunteer photographer, Maury Eldridge.
Good evening. I'm Maury Eldridge, and I'm happy to share with you the beauty of the Charles. The Charles River cleanses, nurtures, and sustains us. A visit to the river dissolves tension in the waters. During times of crisis, the river offers solace. There is always beauty to photograph. The wildlife reminds us of our place. On occasion, the river elicits a poem. This annual meeting seems like a good time to recall gratitude. Thanksgiving morn. Thanksgiving morn, the machinery of the world lays silent. The honk of sentinel geese, mallard wings beating a flight from the marsh, the chirps of departing songbirds only augment the soul of quiet. The breeze too is on holiday, leaving a chance for perfect reflection. Golden reeds passing into dry memory, dormant buds reaching for the future, stout trees that hold an overarching sky. The family yet rests, later to gather as one spirit of celebration. I drink deeply the long morning river of thanks.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Maury, for that. Well, that is it for our official program this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to working with you to achieve more good news in 2021. With that, we're going to allow folks to join our breakout rooms. I think we're going to have a slide listing the breakout rooms. Yes. So Lisa Kumpf, now you've met everyone through the award presentation and through the video. So Lisa, our aquatic scientist, will be talking in more detail about water quality, and you can learn about our sampling programs and data. Amy Walker, clearly who could give up her day job and be a comedian. Our TerraCore member will be talking about invasives, so feel free to join that breakout. Jenny Moonen, our new stormwater program director, be great if you have a chance to meet her. We'll be talking about Lower Alston and Boston's next big dig, including the I-90 project. And then, and Heather Miller also will be joining that one as well. And then No Drought About It. If you want to talk drought, join Julie Wood, our deputy director. And with that, I think something magically will happen and people will be able to join breakouts. Is that right, Audrey?
Yes. So everyone should.
Oh, yeah, if you see at the bottom, yes.